Hey, welcome to Atlee Church. We're so glad that you decided to join us for today's service, no matter where you find yourself on your spiritual journey. Just to let you know a little bit about Atlee, Atlee is a safe place for those who've given up on church or never went. And our mission is simple: to reach seekers and equip believers to love God, love themselves, love others, and serve the world. Now, if you want more information about who we are as a church or ways for you to get connected, make sure to check out our website at atleechurch.org, or you can also visit us on social media or download our app. And we hope today that you find the service helpful and also encouraging no matter where you are in life right now. So let's get started with today's service. So let me ask you this question as we start off our time together today. How many of you have ever had a moment where you were maybe distracted or something going on and you missed something important, or you missed like a very special time or moment in your life? Anybody ever have a time like that? Okay, most of y'all can relate. Let's run some scenarios here. Maybe it's something like this. Maybe you were taking a nap because you were so exhausted as a young parent and you missed your baby's first steps, right? Anybody ever have that moment? Or maybe you were at your son's ball game and you had to go to the bathroom really bad, and so you run to go to the bathroom and you miss the only home run that he's ever hit, right? Anybody have a moment like that? Or maybe you're working on a big project at work and all of a sudden, like, you know today is special, but you didn't realize why it was special and you missed your anniversary. Anybody can relate to these sort of moments before? I know all of us have had something like that, maybe not those dramatic, but you've had moments like this where you missed out on something important right in front of you. And I mention this today because I almost had one of those moments this past week. My wife and I, we got to go on vacation with her side of the family and spend a few days at the beach with them. And we had such a great time. My boys loved being in the water and playing at the beach. And we enjoyed seeing family members we haven't seen in several years because of all the stuff that's been going on. And so we had a great time. And our house had this like walkout right on the beach. And so it was our last day there. And so I'm, being like total dad moment, got all the beach chairs and all the coolers and like way too much stuff to bring on the beach. Like, why do we bring all this junk to the sand? I don't know why, but we do. And so I got all this stuff. I'm walking out towards the beach and I'm like exhausted already before we even get going. So I'm setting up all the stuff. And so my wife goes down to the beach. She's bringing the boys down there playing. And all of a sudden I hear like this yelling from the beach, and it's my wife, and she's like, "Trey, come here." And I'm like, listen, I just got all this beach stuff set up. I'm about to sit down. I'm good. You have fun out there. I don't know what you're doing, but good luck, you know. So I sit down in my chair, and so I don't hear anything else. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm good. Well, then all of a sudden, a few seconds later, my wife, Trey, come down here. And I'm like, what does she want? And I'm like, I'm good. You do you. I'm going to do me. So I'm like finally getting relaxed, sitting in this beach chair, about to enjoy a moment. And then all of a sudden I hear it again, Trey, get down here. And you know, 3 times from your wife, you better get up, right? So I was like, all right, here we go. So I'm rolling down to the beach and I'm trying to figure out what she's talking about. And then it clicks. I realize why she wants me to come down there. As I look out into the ocean, there were about 7 to 10 dolphins jumping right in front of the beach, right in front of our house. And our kids are like freaking out, like, you know, they've only seen these on TV, you know, like they're real. And it's like, yeah, like they're having fun. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I almost missed this whole dolphin show. And they didn't go away. They literally, I guess there was like a feeding frenzy right in front of our house. And they just kept doing circles and going around. And I mean, it was dolphins everywhere. And it was so cool. Here, I'll show you a quick video my sister-in-law got. It's nothing epic, all right? But you can at least see what we were seeing. And so they're all out there, and it's just this, great moment on our last day. You'll see them here in a minute. They're jumping again, and it's just so cool. They're right there in front of our house, and it's like, oh my gosh, what a moment that I almost missed being a dad and setting up beach chairs, that I missed a dolphin show right in front of us. And so then my brother-in-law gets a wild idea, right? But it's fun to enjoy them from the beach, but it'd be way more fun to enjoy them from the ocean. So he runs, gets a boogie board, and heads out into the water. And I'm like, he's not doing that alone. That's way too much fun for my personality. So I grab a boogie board, and I go out there too. And here's another video of me and him out there with the dolphins, and they're jumping like 10 feet in front of us. And it was like, man, talk about a moment that I almost missed. Look at them. They're right there in front of us. And I was like, man, I was just being a grumpy man sitting in a beach chair, and I almost missed out on this incredible moment of being out there in the water with these dolphins. And I don't know if you've ever had a moment like that where you almost missed this incredible moment that was right there in front of you. Now, I will give this disclaimer. I kind of freaked out about an hour later because this guy, like 100 feet away from us, caught this massive shark. And I was like, okay, what kind of fins was I swimming with, right? I had that moment, but I was like, you know what? They look too much like dolphins, but I'm never going out there again. But have you ever had those moments in life like that where there's something that you could have missed out on, or maybe you did miss out on, that was right there in front of you, and you didn't even know it was there? Now, some of you may be asking, okay, where is this loony guy going this morning with all of this talk? Well, today, we're continuing in a series that we started on this book called Life is Blank a few weeks ago, talking about and rediscovering what life is really all about. And we're going to talk about a word today that I feel like many of us have missed out on, that is right there in front of us, that we just need to understand that it's available to us. But before we jump into that and kind of get into our topic for today, let me first introduce myself. My name is Trey. I'm one of the pastors here on staff, and it's always an honor and privilege to be with you, whether you're here in Mechanicsville, watching online, or part of our Scottsville family. So glad that you're here, and you could be anywhere this morning, but you've chosen to entrust us as a church with the next few moments, and I just want to say thank you for entrusting us with your time. And I pray today, through something that's said, through something that's saying, through whatever happens during our time together, that you're inspired and encouraged no matter where you find yourself on your faith journey today. And so thank you for being with us. A few things I just want to say thank you to. Our Scottsville campus had their Kid Jam, which is like our version of VBS this week. And they had so many kids for the first time in the new facility. So can we just give it up for Scottsville and all those volunteers? Great job this week, guys. Incredible. Thank you, Stephanie and the team, for making that happen. And then today, we kick off our Kid Jam for our kids here in Mechanicsville, and I cannot wait for tonight. We're going to have a great time. time together with all of our elementary school kids here doing the Kid Jam this week and over the next few days. And I hear Kona Ice is coming at the end, so I'll be there for that. So it's going to be a great week together. Also, I want to give a shout out to a guy named John and Julian, who shared with us over the last few weeks of this series while I was gone, and they did an incredible job. And so if y'all were here for that, you got to hear from them. If you didn't get to hear from them, please go back on our on-demand and watch their messages. It was really cool to see God use them both to share some things that were on their hearts. But today, as we continue in this series, before I give you the word today, I want us to open up the biblical text and be able to read the story together. And it's a story I think all of us in some way, shape, or form can relate to. This story contains three main characters in the Bible. One of them being Jesus, the Son of God, and then two other characters named Mary and Martha. And as we read this story today in the New Testament of the Bible, I want you to take a moment and I want you to figure out which one of these characters you most relate to. Now, Jesus being one of them, none of us are really the Son of God, so we can't really relate to that. But the other two characters, Mary and Martha, I think you're going to find a lot of characteristics that are very similar to you, your life, and my life. Now, as we jump into this story, this is a story that's written by a guy named Luke in the New Testament of our Bible in the Gospels. And these are eyewitness accounts of the life and ministry of Jesus. And so Luke is writing, telling us this story about Jesus and this encounter that he has with these two women. And I want you just to put yourself for a moment in this story and figure out which one of these characters you most relate to. And so if you have a Bible, you can open up to Luke 10, and we're going to look at verses 38 through 42 together. Verses 38 through 42. And here is what this story says. And let's just imagine for a moment that we're just there and experiencing what they're experiencing. It says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha, everybody say Martha, where Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all this work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary, everybody say Mary. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Now, as we read this story, how many of you can relate to Mary, the one that's just hanging out, enjoying time with Jesus? Free spirit, just calm. Anybody relate to Mary? Yeah, very few of us. Now, how many of us can relate to Martha? That I got to get stuff done, that get her done kind of spirit. Like, we got things to do, we got things to cook, we got to be ready for all that's ahead. I think many of us can relate to Martha more than we would like or care to admit. I think many of us can relate to both of them throughout our various weeks, but most of us relate most to Martha because we live very distracted, very overcommitted, very overscheduled, very overworked, very overstressed, very overbusy kind of lives. But we see a different perspective of a life when we see and hear of Mary. Mary wasn't distracted. Mary was fully engaged in the moment that was in front of her. She was just soaking up time with Jesus. And all of us would love to be this way, wouldn't we? But we all know that there's so much to get done, so many places to go, so many emails and texts to respond to, so many people's lives that we're looking at and scrolling through on Instagram, that we don't have enough time to be Mary in our fast-paced culture. But I love what Jesus says to Martha. Jesus told Martha that she was worried and troubled about many things. And somehow Mary had discovered the one thing that was actually needed to live a better life. Martha's priority and her focus was on the wrong things. And I believe many of us, if we're honest, we make the same mistakes every single day. we become so focused and fixated on the wrong things that we miss out on the great things that are right in front of us every single day. I think many of us live with a many things syndrome, just like Martha. Our lives are so jam-packed full of work, taking care of family members, cooking, cleaning, going, doing, watching the news, doing so many things that we miss out on the life and the enjoyment of each day that lies ahead for every single one of us, that we forget that each day that we're given here on this earth is a blessing. And I know because of all the things that are happening around us and all the things that are happening inside of us, that it's hard for us to really enjoy each day. We turn each day, instead of a blessing, we turn it into surviving. And that's not how we were created to live. And so what's missing from all of our lives to get back to that merry way of living, that focused intentionality on what's right in front of us and enjoying the moments that we have? Today, I believe more than ever, as we look at this next word, it's this, that life is to be at peace with God. Everybody say peace. I think that's the thing that many of us are missing from our daily lives. Now, I know many of you are thinking right now, I'm going to start checking out from this guy and what he's saying, because that's the last thing that I need is peace. I got too much stuff to worry about peace. But I promise you, hang in there for the next few moments, because I believe if we can find out how to have more peace in our lives, it will affect every other area in which we do our daily lives. And so what is peace? What exactly is it, and how do we obtain it? I think a lot of us, when we think about peace, we think about old hippies, right? Throwing up peace signs on a VW bus, right? Or maybe some of us think about somebody peacing out on us and leaving us, and we're forgotten. I think we have a lot of misconceptions about what the word peace really means. But here's what Jesus told us about peace. And I want you to listen carefully to this verse. John 16:33 says this, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. And see, I love this passage because it reminds us that life is going to be troublesome sometimes, that life isn't going to be perfect. Things are not always going to go your way. You're going to have trouble, and that's actually a promise from God. Aren't you glad you came to church today to hear that, right? Thank you, God, for giving me trouble. I appreciate this. This is like a terrible church experience for me right now. But hang in there, because listen, even though we're going to have trouble, God promises us to give us peace in the midst of our struggles, in the midst of what we're going through. And it's not peace like you and I know of. It's this word shalom. Everybody say shalom. It's a weird word, right? You may have heard it mentioned a few times here or there. But this Hebrew word for this in the biblical text is a little different than what we're normally used to hearing, because when we think of peace, we think of it in our English language. And when we read it in the text, the shalom that's mentioned here about God's peace means something more like this. Tranquility and peace also means wholeness, soundness, and completeness. Now, how many of you could use more of that in your life right now with all that you have going on? I know for me, I could use a little bit more wholeness, soundness, completeness, tranquility in my life. Now, how many of you know our world could use a little bit more of this right now with all that's going on? Every single day, it seems like there's something else that's happening. And so I believe for all of us, we could use this kind of peace more and more in our lives. This kind of peace sounds so intriguing because it's something that we know that we all need more of. This type of peace isn't conditional upon our circumstances or what's going on in our lives. We can have trouble and issues and peace in existence at the same time when we allow God to come into the midst of whatever we may be facing. But how are we meant to do this shalom? How are we created to live each day with godly peace that's supposed to lead and guide our lives in a different way? So that leads me to the question today that I want us to spend some time and our remainder few moments together is this. So how do we get this peace? How do we get this peace that you and I are searching for? And what do we have to do to get it? And for me, I spent some time studying this over the last few weeks. And what's funny, it's less about what we have to do, and it's more about choosing to be. Taking time to evaluate our lives and to determine what's going well and what's not going well, and allowing God into our lives so that we can enjoy the peace that he wants to give us. I love the song that the band sang earlier, I want to make room for you, God. And I think there's time and space in our lives to make room for more of God's peace in our lives so that ultimately it affects us and those around us. And so today, as we figure out how to get this sort of peace, I want you to just take a moment and think about your life. How peaceful would you describe your life being right now? Do you think that you're living with this sort of godly peace in your life? Or today, there's some things that need to change in order to live more at peace with God? And I looked at two things that I think could help us all gain this sort of peace in our lives more than ever before. And so I want to give those to you, and I want to study those with you over the next few moments together. And the first thing that I believe, in order for us to get this peace that God wants to give us, the first big things that you and I have to realize that we have to do is just to eliminate unnecessary distractions. Eliminate unnecessary distractions. I believe you and I have so many distractions that are causing us to miss out on what God has for us right there in front of us. You and I, we live so distracted and so consumed with so many things. We fill our lives with so much busy that we miss out on what God has for us every single day. And the problem is, these things in the moment make us feel important, don't they? Like when we're busy or when we have stuff going on or we're working too much, it makes us feel good in the moment because we're like, yeah, I'm important and all these great things. But when we come home and when we wake up the next day and we feel like something's missing, that what we're doing is just not enough. And all those distractions, while they're good in the moment, they don't leave us feeling satisfied because that's not how we were created to live. And when we slow down sometimes, it can kind of be uncomfortable a little bit because we don't have the busyness and it almost makes us feel like we don't matter. But in all essence, this is the way that God has created us to live, to be at peace with him and to experience his peace in our lives every single day. Something I started this year because I realized I'm distracted by my cell phone a lot. All the time, I'm on it, checking emails. I'm always getting stuff from everybody. It's like I'm on call 24/7, sometimes it feels like. And so what I decided to do is in the evenings when I get off work, I only have from 5 till 8 when we put our kids to bed to spend time with my family. That's 3 hours a day that my family gets my attention. And I was realizing that even in those 3 hours a day, I was on my phone, I was still contacting people, I was still busybody all the time. And so my wife and I, we put a shelf in our living room. And so there's a bowl in it at the top. And so what I do when I come home around 5:30 is I take my phone and I put it in the bowl. And then I go out and I spend time with my kids, with my wife. I go in the backyard and play and hang out with them. I have this shalom moment to slow down and enjoy just a few hours of my day and to allow God to give me his peace, but allow my family to get my attention. And so what has you distracted right now? It may not be a cell phone, it may be work, it may be this person, it may be that thing, but what has you so distracted that you miss out on this shalom, this tranquility, this peace in your life that God so desperately wants you to experience? I know for so many of us, we can live so distracted that we're like Martha. We're like, you know what, Mary, get to work, go in here, do something. And while those things are important and things need to get done, Mary was soaking up a moment that she would never get back again. She was fully living in the moment that she had with Jesus. I love what Judah Smith says in the book, Life Is. If you haven't picked up a copy of this, definitely read it and follow along with us during this series. But here's what Judah said. He said, what we're distracted by says a lot about our value system. What we're distracted by shows us a lot about what we think is important in our lives because those are the things we're giving our time and attention to. And so what has you so distracted that you're giving way too much value to it today? And for all of us to take time to evaluate that, because there's so many unnecessary distractions. It's funny, every time I get ready to go on vacation, I bring a few books with me. And the staff was making fun of me this week because they're like, what books are you reading? So I showed them the list. And every year I have a book about distractions because I still am trying to learn this and do better in this area. But I think we all are, aren't we? We all are trying to get rid of those things so that we can be present and in the moment and in the things that God has right in front of our faces. But we can't fully experience those if we're always living distracted. Another big distraction that I find with people that are trying to explore faith is this having to earn God's love or God's grace in their lives. And they spend all this time on this religious treadmill trying to do more. I'm going to go to church. I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to do these things. And they're trying so hard to earn God's love. And if you go back to week 1 of this series, what we talked about is that life is to be loved by God. You don't have to do a bunch of those things. God has already done that for you. He's already done the work to make the connection and relationship with you. You don't have to continue to strive. God's grace and love is available to you. There's nothing you can do that can separate you from God's love. And if you missed that week, go back and watch that if that's something you struggle with. Because I think all of us, as we approach faith, approach it in that sort of way in the beginning, but then realize that that kind of stuff can't last long. Because then we just realize how awesome God is and how much He loves every single one of us, that we don't have to strive for it. We just have to accept it. And we start doing things for God because of the relationship we have, not to earn God's love or forgiveness in our lives. And so today, what are your current distractions? What's holding you back from experiencing the peace in your life that you so desperately need right now and that I so desperately need right now? It's time to get rid of those unnecessary distractions. Some of y'all have been living with them for way too long. And it's causing you to miss out on some important moments in your life. The next big thing that I think would help us all understand and experience God's peace in our lives more is to create space. Everybody say space. Just make sure you're with me. Create space for moments of peace. Now, if you're like me, you often will say this phrase when you hear something like this: I just don't have enough time, right? Some of y'all said some weird answers there. Time, right? You don't have enough time. But the thing is, we get the same amount of time each day. And guess what? You got as much time as I do. Now, I don't know when I'm going to croak or when you're going to croak out of here, but the thing is that each day we're all given the same amount of time, the same amount of opportunity. And so you can use it and be distracted by it, or you can utilize the time God's given you, every single moment, to actually matter. Create space in your life to experience God's peace. Instead of just running from one thing to another, find pockets of time where you can just be instead of continuing to do. For me, what I've learned is that I thought my life right now with 2 toddlers that I need more sleep, right? Which I do. And all of us, anybody's got young kids, I pray for you and your sleep daily, right? But what was happening was I would wait till my kids wake up and then I would just be grumpy and start my day off on a bad foot. What I've come to realize is that even though waking up early is no fun, especially if you're my personality, it can give you this peace that you really need. And so I started waking up really early with my wife. We don't do this every day. We're trying to keep getting better at it. It's something we're experimenting with. But the last few mornings we've gotten up, we've shared coffee together. We've just taken time to open up the Bible and read it for ourselves and to spend this time with God, creating this space of peace to start our day. And I don't know about you if you've ever had those time of moments in your life, but man, it has done wonders for my life personally. I'm usually a night owl. I love staying up late, and that's usually when I would, take, time to read my Bible and have those moments of peace. But man, there's something about the morning that's just different, and it has helped me big time. And I'm choosing to go to the source of peace as I start my day. So if anyone tries to rob my peace or take my peace away, at least I got something I'm filled up with ready to start my day with. And so I don't know what that looks like for you in your schedule, but carving out moments in your schedule, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes here or there, of just, hey, I'm just going to take this moment for me. I'm going to breathe, and I'm just going to ask God to give me his peace. Those type of things can help us. Because here's what God tells us when we actually open our lives up to that sort of peace. In Matthew 11, Jesus says this, 28 through 30, and I love this in Eugene Peterson's version of the Message translation of the Bible. He says this, are you tired, worn out, burnout on religion? I mean, how many of you love those questions, right? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. Don't you love that? I want to recover my life the way that God actually intended my life to be. Come to me. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Now, how many of you that would describe your life today? Somebody that lives freely and lightly. Not many of us today in our culture, right? We more describe ourselves as busy, overworked, overstressed. And here Jesus gives us the simple instructions to come to him, carve out time to experience his peace, and he'll teach us how to live freely and lightly. Last night I was up here trying to prepare for our talk today, and it was funny because I realized more and more this message, as much as I hope it's for you, it's definitely for me and what I have going on right now. I could use more of God's peace in my life, and I need to carve out more time for it. And I hope that you find time in your life to carve out those moments where you stop being so busy, stop doing all the time, and just experience God's peace that he wants to give you. Now, as we get ready to land the plane here, I just want you to think about this. Jesus had 3 years of ministry with these disciples that were really close to him. They were like his BFFs, guys that he did life with every single day. And he's about to leave, and he's about to give them some parting words, right? And so if you're Jesus, you're the Son of God, right? You're going to give like an epic, like, halftime talk, right? Like, here you go, guys, I'm leaving you. You're going to pass the torch. Everything's going to be great, right? Or you're going to be like, hey, guys, you're going to go out and you're going to change the world. And I'm looking at what Jesus tells these guys as he's about to end his earthly ministry. And I was blown away by what Jesus tells them. And I want you to listen to these words as if Jesus is telling you these words as well. In the midst of all your busyness and all that's going on right now, this one final moment that Jesus has, here's what he shares. John 14:27 says this, peace. Everybody say peace. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled. Do not let them be afraid. Literally, Jesus could have talked about anything. Yet he spends one last moment telling his disciples what is available to them as he's about to leave. His peace. In the midst of all they're going to face ahead, in the midst of all that they've already gone through, that his peace would be with them wherever they go. And they don't have to be afraid. They don't have to be troubled. They don't have to worry about what the next newscast says. They don't have to worry about what that friend told them. They don't have to worry about what's ahead because God's peace is with them. And I don't know about you, but if I were in their shoes, to hear that would have been life-changing. And I hope today it's life-changing for you because I know every single one of you came in today with all kinds of stuff going on. I know there's enough going on around us right now to leave us all worried and stressed about everything. And I don't know what you're facing in your own individual lives. Many of us are probably afraid. But what I love about Jesus is that he gives us this great gift. His peace when things are going good and his peace when we experience trouble. His peace when we're alone in darkness and chaos, and His peace when we're lonely and doubting, His peace in our greatest joys and when we're on the mountaintop, and His peace when we're in our lowest of lows. His peace is there for us today. I just pray you and I slow down long enough to recognize it's there and to be open to it no matter what our lives look like today. And so like I said, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're facing. But I know for me, I could use some more peace in my life. And if I'm correct in any sort of way, I know you could probably use some peace in your life today as well. Whatever you may be facing and whatever you may be going through. God's peace is available to you. But we have to learn real quickly to eliminate those distractions. And then we have to learn to create space to make room for God's peace to actually be felt and experienced in our lives. I know my wife and I, before we make any big decision, big or small usually, we'll go to each other and say, "You got peace about that?" And then she'll ask, "You got peace about that?" Because whatever big decision we make, we want to know that God is in it. And we've done that so many times throughout our lives saying, "Hey, do you have God's peace about this decision?" Because we want to know that God is with us and for us no matter what we may be going through. And I know you want to know the same things as well. And so this week, will you take some time to evaluate those things, to make room for God's peace in your life? And as I was preparing for today, I came across this song that I thought described you and I so well. And all of our troubles and all the things that we go through, we try to deal with it on our own. We try to control everything. And sometimes we miss out that God wants to help us no matter what we're facing. And this song described it so well. And so today, the band has prepared this song for us. And I just want you, as you hear this song over the next few moments, to put the distractions aside, to not worry about what's going to go on at home when you leave here today, but to take a moment between you and God and say, "God, what's in the way for me experiencing your peace in my life?" And just take this next few moments to really think about what your life could look like if you allow God's peace to be in the midst of your situation. So let me pray for you, and then I'm going to let the band come and play the song. And I want you just to have this next few moments between you and Him. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for your incredible peace in the midst of all kinds of trouble that we face. God, thank you for the reminder today that this great gift is available to every single one of us. God, I know there's so many stories, so many brokenness, so much confusion, so much anxiety, so much worry and stress that we fill our busy lives with. But God, for a moment, we choose to slow down. We choose to hear from you. And God, over the next few moments, I just pray that you would speak to us and remind us how incredible your presence can be and how when we allow your peace into our situations, how you can fill us, use us, and change us as we know more about it and choose to experience it in our lives today. We give you these next few moments, and it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, thanks so much again for stopping by. If you have any questions or would like to get connected here at Atlee Church, we would love to help or serve you any way that we can. And if God is doing something awesome in your life, we'd love to hear about it. You can email us directly at stories@atleechurch.org. And if you would like to support the ministries here at Atlee financially, you can go to our website and click the top tab, Give, and that helps us continue to get these messages out there and make a difference in the lives of so many. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you again next week.